Hello, everyone. My name is Hayley McCorkle, and I am IFFGD's Public Relations Associate. I would like to welcome you to IFFGD's Research Award Winner Series, Where Are They Now? This program was designed not only to acknowledge this year as being IFFGD's 30th anniversary, but to also give us a chance to reconnect with some of our past research award winners. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Yvette Taché, who is our 2005 IFFGD Research Award winner for Senior Investigator in Basic Science. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Taché.
Thank you very much for the kind introductions. 2005 look really far away, and I was already senior at that time, so I am even more senior now. But anyway, I will be really pleased to answer some of your questions related to this interview.
Yes, we look forward to it. So, can you just briefly give us a little bit of background of where you're currently located and maybe a little bit about your current research focus?
Okay, so I am presently located at the UCLA Digestive Disease Division, where we have a center for an NIH research center on GI tract research. I am directing the laboratory of brain-gut interactions for many years, and my recent focus is related to the neuroanatomical and functional mapping of the innervation of the colon by the autonomic nervous system and intrinsic nervous system in relationship with three species like human, mice, and pig as the experimental model. So in collaboration with Dr. Lin Chang, we have embarked on a new project that is also sponsored by NIH Spark program grant, whereby she is going to take biopsy of characterized IBS control patients, and the IBS will be either diarrhea or constipation predominant. And then using new methodology that we developed with Dr. Puching Yang in my laboratory, we will do what we call the 3D dimension of the imaging of the innervation of the mucosa in relationship with how these nerves interact with specific cells secreting serotonin, immune cells like the glia cell, or the submucosal neurons. So we will be able to see whether, depending upon the chronicity of the IBS symptoms and the manifestation, either diarrhea or constipation, we will see some change in this innervation and the chemical coding of these nerves. And it will be the first time ever that such fine characterization of the innervation using the three dimensions will be achieved and with a very high resolution microscope. So this is one part of the work that I am involved with Lin Chang. And in collaboration with my former fellow, Dr. Muriel Larouche, who was also a junior awardee, we obtain also an NIH grant, which is a small business transfer grant, whereby we partner with a small company called Sentia, which was developed by one of my former collaborators, late Dr. Jean Rivier, who developed all the corticotrophic releasing factor antagonists that we have clearly shown that they are involved in stress-related diarrhea and hypersensitivity in model of IBS. So what we are doing now, we are testing preclinically this new long-acting, very efficacious CRF antagonist in order to move to phase 2B in human within like 1 year or two. So those are the two major, and I have a third one, which is more related to central vagal activation and the anti-inflammatory effect of vagal stimulation in relationship with postoperative ileus, which is very interesting also. And this one is through the VA grant.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the research that you're teaching on is, like you mentioned, it's the very first groundbreaking research. And I think that in the future, we'll learn so much from some of these studies that you mentioned. And we just can't wait to kind of hear about what we learn and understand from the research studies that you guys are conducting.
Thank you
So,
very much for your kind word. What is very nice is the fact that as I am fading out a little bit, there is a new generation coming in, and clinicians, scientists, preclinical and clinical, who are following this overall mechanism and have the capability to move on, even if I am no longer around in a few years.
it's all about feeding into who's there after you, right? It's all about being the mentor and being the guidance for some of our younger investigators coming through some of the labs that you are working in today.
Thank you.
So, when we're talking about some of your studies, though, what are some things that you guys hope to better understand in relation to how gastrointestinal disorders may affect the adult and patient population?
Yeah, I think what I have been focused during the last decade is the understanding of stress. And we know that IBS is a stress-sensitive disease, and the manifestation in terms of exacerbation or development are linked with some condition of stress, either during early childhood or in adult. So by unraveling the underlying mechanism of this stress pathway, in some way we will be able to put a break on some of the stress-related exacerbation of the disease, or better understand how to curtail it by intervention that are either at the periphery or centrally. And I think this is certainly something that will have implications for adult, at least functional bowel disease, which are stress sensitive, for sure.
Yeah, and as we know, symptoms of IBS can be extremely debilitating for those who are living with that condition. And I mean, the symptoms really range from being very mild to severe. And like you said, stress definitely has a role, and plays a role in how the symptoms are perceived by the body. So thank you so much for touching on that just a little bit there. And just to kind of switch gears here for a second, when we talk about you winning the IFFGD award in 2005, which you said seems so far away now, but even though it was a senior investigator award that you received, how do you feel winning the award in 2005 may have impacted your career?
Thank you for asking. First of all, it was a very delightful knowledge when I ever heard that I could be an awardee, partly because this was a field that I was very interested with Dr. Emran Meyer being one of the clinical leader to put the map of the brain-gut interaction as an important pathway to understand. So all the preclinical work that we have done leading to this award has two major impact. One, obviously, as you are part of an academic entity and you climb the ladder of assistant, associate, full professor, I have been on this CAP committee where you review the dossier to, to have an award, make a big step to be recognized, partly to become full professor. So that was really, and at the NIH, when we have to give on graphical sketch, we have also to include our honor. And as it was related to the fact that it was linked with functional bowel disease, and it was a preclinical work that I have put as grants applications. So they gave me some kind of recognition that by a very well-known entity that say, okay, the work that she has been doing in that field is relevant. So putting a grant and having this award together give a nice recognition and good feeling about the sanctioning the validity of my work.
Yes, yes. Very validating to be recognized by the peers and also patient population for all of the hard work that you have done and that you are currently still doing.
Yeah.
And it probably keeps you motivated too, also, while you're researching. It's like a good little support that you have in knowing that your research is being recognized and that it motivates you to continue on doing the research that you are doing.
Yeah, and it was very important because IBS is a complex disease, as everybody knows, and experimental model were not always very faithful. So it was very important to see that it was recognized, that it's an important field. We need to keep working on it. And so I think it has a major impact. Uh, yeah, because most of the people were working in other fields more very different, and so that was very, very nice.
Yes, thank you for being not only a researcher, but an advocate for those who are living with IBS by doing your research. So, when we're talking about acknowledgements, what other acknowledgements have you received for your research?
Oh, you know, I it's very interesting because I started that field so early, so I was and not so many were involved in it. And I remember at the American Gastroenterology Association Digestive Disease Week, I did not even have a descriptor when I started that work on brain-gut interaction. So I had to ask my Dr. John Walsh, who was on the council at that time. I said, look, I don't even have a descriptor to put in the work. So then they put brain-gut interaction as a descriptor where you could put your abstracts. And I was at the, so because of I mentioned it because I was so early in it. So I guess I got a lot of recognition because people get interested in that and reproduce the data which we have been published. So I got the Research Scientist Award from the Functional Brain Gut Group in 2008, the Outstanding AGA Woman of Science from the AGA, the VA Research Career Scientist Award, the Research Mentor Award from the American Gastroenterology Association. I became Rome Foundation Fellow. I had the William Middleton Award from the VA, which is the highest honor awarded by the biomedical research at the VA. I got a medal from university in Europe, and from the French government, I got the Legion of Honor, which is also the highest French government honor. And I am just getting in 2021 the Distinguished Scientist Award for Women in Neurogastroenterology from the American Neurogastroenterology and Motility Society. So this will be taking place in August at their annual meeting. So I got to, and actually when I mentioned that to mention, oh, another award, I said, don't even care. I said, I don't care either, I am done. But I had to say that, it was nice to be at the front line at the beginning because I was interested in that field. And, being able to be collaborating with functional disease people, advocacy like Cameron Mayer, Lin Chang, and having outstanding fellow who flocked my laboratory when I started the brain gut because it was the only place to go. And then with those very motivated gastroenterologists, I had all those ideas, we need to do this, and so everything sort of pulled together, and the association between clinician, scientist, fellow, having the support of NIH recognition, this has been really a nice journey, I must say. I wish that other scientists could have the same thing because I have really enjoyed it. It was a lot of work, but very rewarding in terms of building up career in that field for gastroenterologists who have continued both in Japan, in Europe, and here. And for the field, I hope that eventually some translational application will come from this CRF antagonist anyway. So that's the journey.
Yeah, you're just one woman, but you're one woman who has made her stamp and her mark in the field of research for GI conditions. And so that is a huge honor for all of the awards that you have received. And congratulations is extended to you for everything that you have done to advance the field in GI. Um,
But I must say that, I got this award from you in 2005. And after that, it's just kept going. And I guess when you get an award, it's sort of as ripple effect. Oh, she got already recognized, But so then it sort of, steps, put you in the footstep.
Yeah.
That's really nice because you were the first award the month that I got, 2005.
Oh, well, thank you for mentioning that. And when we're talking about all of the acknowledgments that you have received for being this great researcher, what would you see as being maybe your most successful research study and why?
I think because I was trained by the father of the stress concept, Dr. Anselier in Montreal, when I went to the Salk Institute and they discovered the molecule and receptor which are involved in causing the stress related, for instance, HPA axis, which is the release of corticosterone happening each time that you are stressed. I thought about all the other action of stress, including change in autonomic nervous system and GI function, because it was known that when you are stressed, you could not digest that well, you could have to go to the bathroom. And so I figure out, okay, let's see outside of the endocrine response to stress, whether this molecule could not drive as well the autonomic visceral response. And then I was with the collaboration with people at the Salk who gave me the peptide and the receptor antagonist. I was able to really demonstrate that indeed in the brain, at a specific part of the brain, like the paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus or the Barrington nucleus in the pointing part of the brain, um, this receptor signaling, when they are activated, drive the stress response so they block the stomach to empty and they induce secretory motor function leading to diarrhea. And when you are stressed, you give the antagonist in the specific part of the brain and it curtails that. So I think that was one of the major discovery. And additionally, I think we show that in addition of the GI motor function alteration, the hypersensitivity, which is heightened by stress, was also depending upon this pathway. And more so, as all the peptides present in the brain are also present in the gut, we saw that there was the same signaling pathway in the colon, which were also activated, upregulated, and could be have an application in the stress response. So I think sort of dissecting how the stress impact on the viscera through brain mechanism, autonomic nervous system, and locally, I think that was very significant to advance the understanding on this stress-sensitive related disease. So this, I think, was sort of a very major. I have done a lot of other, discovery because I was working on this brain-gut interaction and other peptide as well. But this one, I think, has still some kind of potential to be significantly helping patients when we sorted out um, the right tool to block this receptor. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like what you're saying here, finding the right tool to block that receptor, because I think researchers, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think researchers are still trying to figure out what is it that causes a reaction from that external and internal stress. Like, what is the connection between the brain gut axis?
Yeah, true. And obviously now there is this new player with the microbiome, which I have not. Dr. Raymond Meyer is now launching a nice research on that and must have talked about it in his interview. But now that we unravel how much, some bacteria are capable of secreting serotonin and even CRF, and we don't still know how much the stress impact on this bacterium that you have, and then could also precipitate or also contribute to locally to have this kind of overactivation of serotonin release. And so this is another dimension that I wish I could be like a couple of decades younger to launch into it and have a very, yeah, but other people will do it, so it's no problem. But anyway, it's a very interesting growing field that was not present when I started my work. But I think
Yeah,
it's a new dimension that need to be taken into consideration.
yeah,
And
it's a very, very exciting time for sure.
for sure. And I think when I have already mentioned that before, but in order to tackle this IBS, you need to have practically an institute where you have immunologists, bacteriologists, neurologists, gastroenterologists. You need to have all the discipline to get endocrinologists. You secretin serotonin, you have the neuron, you have the immune cell, you have the bacteria, and all of those are very important to understand their connection and their regulation up and down under pathological condition to try to intervene. It is why it's such a complex disease, because one target is not going sometimes to do it completely. And in order to understand everything, you need a very collaborative, interactive, multidisciplinary group. And now more and more as NIH organizes multi-PI grants, which did not exist before. You need to have your own little R01, and I remember hiring an electrophysiologist to record the nerve and a neuroanatomist to poke the brain, and because I had not all that skill myself, but I was able to manage postdoc and assistant and all of that in my little scale. But now, and because to put on this R01, but now I think as this multi-PI, you could really have senior or well-established investigator in this different field to just launch and try to make it a clinician and scientist. So it's a very interesting time, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think everyone's starting to see that we have to take a disciplinary approach in order to treat the whole patient.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's not going to work with just looking like one little windows. This will not do it. And
Yeah.
it's the way Dr. Grossman was really pioneer in that, and he was really voicing how important it is to make some the understanding of the patients and the treatments as a whole entity, brain, gut, and so forth.
Yeah, and you said that you wish you were just a little bit of a decade before it now, so that you could be part of some of the new groundbreaking things that are going on in research. But honestly, you were the start, or the group who started some of the, generating and or just feeding off of some of the other research that was done, and it's passing it down to our the newer
Yeah,
researchers so that they can continue to learn more about it. And so that, like I said, that is the exciting time. But when we talk about research and we talk about your passion and what keeps you going, what do you enjoy about being a researcher and why?
yeah. Uh, Obviously, now I think the most important thing is certainly to push to have the mentoring aspect and orient the younger people or make them concentrate on the important issues. So I think that this part is really what you need to do at the stage of my career where I am, because it's the future, and I think everybody is different. It will bring some new, fresh ideas, and so this part is very important. And obviously, because I have spent so much time on this stress-related pathway with this CRF signaling pathway, this interaction with this company Sentia, which is biotech outshoot of the Salk Institute development of this CRF antagonist that they have developed to be much more longer acting and so forth. I would like to see how far we could go with this to sort of circle the whole system, whereby you could have maybe kind of clinical application of this circuitry. So this is really, I am not sure if I will see it before I completely stop, but uh, the new generation will certainly continue because their knowledge and their interest as well. So this is the two main aspect that I am now concentrating on. And, you know, it's very important to be sure that this complex field has the brightest people involved in it because it's so complex. You know, I
Mhm.
think in terms of the, as you said, the multidisciplinary approach needed the ability to work in collaboration, to be very
Mhm.
collegial and not, you know, in a silo in your say, okay, I will do it and it's only me and I will be the best. And no, to be so I think it's require a certain type of researcher who are motivated to really make an impact in that field for the patient and are ready to be collegially interacting and search for additional knowledge or expertise they don't have. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that part I think is very important to ingrain in the new generation that will be working in. And the NIH, as I said, having these multi-PI grants will help tremendously because before you could not do that. You know, you had to be by yourself. Meaning it's still the case that you have R01, but more and more you have like this program project grant, not so many, but these multi-PI grants, yeah, which are
Yeah.
super.
And you talk about giving back to the new generation and helping them see some of the things that makes this field just a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
So, what do you see as being maybe some of the gap needs still in research in the GI field, and how do you foresee some of these gap needs being filled in the future?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but certainly we mentioned already the ability to know more about the microbiome and how this microbiome move in relationship to, for instance, early adversity. We have already done some preclinical model of early stress postnatal in animals and saw that the microbiota was changed. How long does it last? And also the type of bacteria to know more about what kind of compound they are releasing. And I think there is some bacteria, as I mentioned, that release. So all this dimension of understanding the macrobiota, but at the level of the mucosa, it will be very important because it has not, it's a completely new field that has then this connection between the central amygdala, the locus coeruleus noradrenergic neurons that sort of induce hypervigilance and sensitivity. I think it's very important to, because this locus coeruleus, by the projection that there is between the Barrington, the locus coeruleus to the sacral spinal cord, and rostrally to all the noradrenergic neurons that modulate the hypersensitivity and the ability to be hypervigilant to sensory stimuli. Those pathways are certainly very important to understand better and to see what uh, the best tool to to modulate this circuitry in order to cognitive therapy are certainly a good, it take a lot of time, but to sort of rechannel this circuitry that are overactivated all the time. So this component in the brain and in the periphery, I think the interaction between the microbiota and the feedback also to the brain, because now it's clear cut that there is this kind of bidirectional interaction whereby the brain could influence the microbiota, but the microbiota also, you know, trigger, you know, it has been shown even in Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson disease, and the microbiota could be, you know, a player. So yeah. So I think there is a lot of very interesting
Yeah.
but you need a team that is multidisciplinary, yeah, because you are not a bacteriologist just like that. You know, you are not a neurogastroenterologist. Yeah, it's take training and knowledge, and you need to bring those expertise together, and you could not do it all by yourself, and to be successful, I think, or at least to have data that are trustable.
Yeah. This is definitely just an exciting time to be a researcher. I mean, so many new things are coming out and so many questions, unanswered questions are beginning to be answered and beginning to be looked into. Um,
Yes,
it's just like what you were saying there at the end. It's so important to create this whole teamwork, making it a village and a collaborative effort to begin to answer some of the questions that many patients have about what are gastrointestinal disorders? Why is it impacting my life on a day-to-day basis? And how can I get relief?
yeah.
I think that's really what researchers are looking into more.
Yeah, and I think to promote grants or give support to these interdisciplinary groups and require that they are interdisciplinary, I think will foster this. If you say, look, we would like to know that to give some support, but you need to have a group of teamwork. Like at UCLA, they try to interact between the North and South Campus by giving grant. And, I think more and more, even locally, you could see a granting agency or foundations. It would be good if they could also reinforce this aspect because I think it's needed at that point to break the culture of you know, working in a very isolated, yeah. So it's very good that but yeah, so your foundation had so many impact on the patient and the researcher to channel them, in the right directions. Yeah.
Yes, and we just thank you and everyone who has been part of your research efforts for just doing so much to help us better understand gastrointestinal disorders and to help us raise awareness about how it impacts patients on a day-to-day basis. So we want to say thank you and thank you for taking your time to speak with us today. And also thank you to all of our listeners who has tuned into IFFGD's Research Award winner series, Where Are They Now? Where today we've had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Taché, our 2005 IFFGD Senior Investigator Research Award winner for Basic Science. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the interview and also good words. Yes, thank you.